Entrepreneurship
on 702.
16 minutes after 9 o'clock. Andisa Ramabunga is my guest, Group Chief Advisor at Ndiso Consulting Group. We're talking entrepreneurship. Andisa, good evening to you and thank you so much for coming through. A very, very intricate, messy opening that I started with. Yeah. Bring it to me. Close it up for me and tell me what I'm trying to ask you.
Yeah. Thank you, Aubrey. In fact, I'm privileged because we do speak outside of this. So when you pose this question to me, you ask me a very pertinent question, right, around, is entrepreneurship really more around just buying CPRO documents, registering a company with CPRO, getting a tax clearance certificate, and then sitting on it? Or why is it that most of our entrepreneurial activity seeks to be, or at least to what we see from the outside, it's more this compliance stuff, yes, and less the stuff that you and I talk about, yeah, in this. And there's partly a reason for that. But I'd like to maybe take a step back because you mentioned some numbers here that I'll try remember, and I hope I don't get short for them because these are rough numbers but very close. To say that, remember there's there's about 19 million employed people in South Africa. And a staggering 12 million or give. I mean, maybe 12 million was a number in 2013 or something, but work with me, right? If there's 19 employed, that means there's 12 employed by the SMME sector. You can do the math and you'll see that there's like closer to 60-70% of the employed number of people. So there's no running away that most of the employment, if we were to get out of this quagmire, you mentioned now the unemployment numbers on the youth in general. I think we've just come back now from State SA's numbers that to say we're worse off than we were. The numbers are fluctuating on a quarter by quarter. But what at least the picture paints is that for us to get out of this unemployedness, joblessness, we really do need to get the entrepreneurial spirit and the entrepreneurial activity growing. Right. So there's no two ways. I mean, and if you think about just nature by itself, right, that organizations that have reached that corporate level, they've sort of matured, right? If you look at their growth will come less, and you'd see this. I think this is just natural, right? It's like with growing as an individual. So their growth comes less with what I call revenue growth. You'll see they'll always have these single digits type of growth, but they come more with a restructuring their financials, meaning that getting the best bang of their buck. So they always become about cutting costs. Right. It's the nature of growth. I mean, right, you cannot have endless growth. Right. So it makes sense that the big corporates cannot absorb the large number of unemployed people. So where does then the shortfall closes is the new companies that are coming up. So obviously there's a growth nature to businesses because before you can become a corporate, you need to start somewhere. Sure. As an SMME. That's the reason why you have to get this. But let me complicate the story even further, and you'll see why we in quite an unadmirable or untenable situation. So South Africa's entrepreneurial activity has been lackluster. I mean, we have one of the highest failures of startups or SMMEs in the world, by the way. In fact, there was a study that was done by AdCorp, and someone, by the way, published an article again in 22. For those, I know we keep on saying we don't quote people, but I'm saying these things are out there, where they quoted the AdCorp numbers. They tested them if they are still true in 2023. And let me give you the numbers. They say 5 in every 7 SMMEs will fail.
In South Africa
specifically. Right. That's a 71% failure rate, yep, right? And then the question that he posed at the time is this is in 2023. Is this still true? And he came back to the conclusion that it's still was. So we've got a very high failure rate of SMMEs. But what I like about that AdCorp, if you get in, I think the other question he asked, are these the reasons, the same reasons? I don't know. I mean, this is not an academic exercise, but there were very solid reasons that were put into place, which will come to answering the question that you are, Aubrey, to say, but why are we immersed or so preoccupied with more the compliance stuff and less the strategic stuff? So there are 5 reasons, and we'll come to them because I think our discussion of them unearths the reason why entrepreneurship in South Africa is like that, right? So you need to understand why people start businesses, right? Why do people start businesses? So one of the first reasons, by the way, they put up of failure of businesses is lack of basic entrepreneurial skills. But what they highlighted as well was that we start businesses for the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons. One of the reasons, and now I'm taking it back to my own experience, and I'd like to warn that my experience is not a worldly experience, but I'm sure a lot of people can share with this. One of the big reasons why people want to start businesses, you'll hear more often than not, I want to get rich. I want to get rich becomes a one of the reasons, which is, by the way, not a very good reason to start a business. The other one is
nothing wrong with wanting to be rich.
No, absolutely.
But it cannot be the reason why you start a business.
No.
Yeah? Right? Okay.
Absolutely. But remember, in some of our conversations, we've talked about this, that most of the people who founded really big conglomerates in the world have never set out to be rich. They went out solving a particular problem in the world. But we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So it has to start with what I call a purpose, rather than I want to be rich, right? And one of the other side of that reason, by the way, they say it's a lack of basic entrepreneurial skills. So, and something that came to mind, and I've seen this a lot, and I'm not sure the listeners will call in, particularly those guys who live around the mines, right? They'll come back to say, hey man, there's a guy who wants me to transport his coal. He says he can give me a subcontract to transport the coal. I mean, that's a valid reason, by the way, to start the business. And that's why you'll see a lot of people saying, okay, let me register a company, let me get a tax clearance, and come back and wanting to obviously supply the coal. And obviously the next thing is, I need trucks. Let me go maybe get trucks. And obviously that person becomes frustrated because that business never see light of the day. And they'll always come back and say, but these people don't want to fund us, or there's lack of funding.
Yeah.
But what you'll quickly realize, which is, by the way, reason number 2 why businesses fail, I said it was lack of basic entrepreneurial skills. It was also starting the business for the wrong reason. I'm moving on now to say, if you were to bitly transgress that, because I would even argue that if you are just reacting to, there's a contract in the mine, let me do it. There's an opportunity to tender for a cleaning service in this company, let me do it. It's a less of a problem of the first one, but it's similar to it, because it comes back to this second reason, that it's lack of understanding the market. Do you really understand who your customers are? So more often than not, even those, by the way, who get these contracts, and we'll come to these other reasons because they are mirrored. But by the way, this is the hierarchy I'm giving you on to say these are the most reasons, and I believe in that hierarchy, is people then start getting into these contracts. It's one contract, and by saying you have a lack of understanding of the customer and the market, one, you don't know how big this market is, right? I mean, then the question becomes, what happens when that contract stops? Because eventually it will stop, right? I mean, if we know the mining towns, I mean, we talk about them being ghost towns. You can imagine now the secondary effect on the entrepreneurial activity there. Because if your business is around just that contract, it means you actually don't have a business, right? It's still call it a survivalist, you're fulfilling a contract. There's an opportunity, but you need to spring beyond that opportunity. That says,
but let me stop you there.
Yeah.
What is a business? So in the context of what you've just said now, what is a business? So
in the context of that business, remember, particularly in the context that we're talking about, we said it's about scaling, right? Its ability to scale, but its ability to scale is grounded on its ability to sustain itself. So that means that it can't be just to fulfill a contract. It needs to outlive whatever contract, whatever environment it's in. So a business by nature. Remember, one of the things that I spoke about, and particularly we were talking about government, right? To say, how do you stimulate the economy? I said, you can't, this tendering system, We won't quite build entrepreneurs and big business as we want, but you need to formalize a program. But think of it on the other side when you are a business yourself. It means you need to create your own programs. If government is not creating that program or businesses officially, they don't have an incentive to. Your job as an entrepreneur is to say, how do I create a program in my context, local context, external context, country context, global context?
I want to remind you of a conversation we had with a mutual friend of ours who runs a business whose main client is actually just one client.
Yeah.
Client is a good client, pays on time, reasonable revenues every month.
Yeah.
And this person said, I'm worried because I've only got this one big client.
Yeah.
And they've done pretty well for themselves.
Yeah.
The people that we were talking to, they've done pretty well for themselves. They sustain a number of families. People are employed by that business. But he as an entrepreneur was saying, I'm worried about the fact that I have this relationship with this one client, great relationship, but I'm worried about the fact that I am overly dependent on this one client.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, to have just one good client or one contract is not necessarily a business. That person came to my mind to say that that's the very same fear that this person has.
Yeah.
What is he afraid of? What is he actually
it's
afraid
concentration risk.
Right.
And I know exactly you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what I like about that story is already he's looking at other clients and he's identified other bigger markets. And he's saying, with what I have is very unique and I can offer it there. So it's about him putting in a business plan or a strategic plan in place to really capture those.
So what I'm asking you is, what is it about him having one client that is not a business?
So it's a concentration risk.
Right. Okay.
Because if you think of it as and what I mean by concentration risk, you are then susceptible to that client.
Sure.
And there are a number
if
of
anything
risks.
happens to that big client, that's it. That's tickets for you.
Some things don't need to happen. Sometimes it's, okay, we've found somebody who can do something better here.
Right.
What happens to you if you don't have any, that becomes the end of your, of your business. So for you to build resilience, you do need to broaden the number of the portfolio of clients you have. And we can even bring it in the retail, right? To say that it's well and good to say, Guti, I'll open a spaza and have 5 people buy for me every day, right? But you quickly realize that the cash flows you make are not enough to sustain a business. So it's important to really do a market assessment and say, how many people are here? How many people can really buy from me? Who else, and we'll come back to this other thing, who else is competing here that is trying to take my lunch away? How can I differentiate myself so that I protect my TEF? Business is war, by the way, and we call it competition exactly for those reasons.
I want to stop you there because I think I want to just grab this moment and hold on to it. So it appears to me that we're talking about different phases of a commercial undertaking.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I need money. I need to live. I need some sort of income.
Yeah.
So if I can get some money coming in, I'm on my way, but I haven't yet hit the level of this being a business yet. It's an undertaking of sorts. Yeah. It's a commercial undertaking of sorts, but it's not yet at the level where it is a sustainable commercial undertaking that I can confidently call a business. Although yes, it is a business, but it's not at the level. But it's a bit of an income earner in the beginning. Yeah. And one of the things you started off by saying is that we need to be careful about the fundamental reason of our starting a business being to simply make money.
Yeah.
Because what that does is that it keeps you at a subsistence level.
Yep.
And that's okay, but it doesn't allow you to be sustainable enough for the purpose of growing in terms of the scaling issue that we were talking about in the past.
No, absolutely that.
Okay.
I mean, think of a baby. I mean, your father, so I always think of a baby.
Yeah.
So you can't say a baby is born and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense, right? Because there's evolution stages of the baby, like a business as well. So it's fine to start up and saying that I've got one client and I'm servicing that client to the best of my ability. I'm learning. It's a perfect ground for you to then start building a business.
Right.
But at least what we are warning you about here is that then rest on your laurels and think that thing will or that arrangement you have will last on in perpetuity, right?
Right.
You have to get actively involved in activities around getting more, understanding the market more, understanding how you diversify your value proposition to offer it to other people. And that's when it starts building a business. I'd like again to draw us back. Remember that differentiation we had around self-employment and a business. And a business. Yeah, it always more often than not, and business more often than not will start with self-employment, because you do need to sustain itself. But you need to understand self-employment is survivalist in nature. But there's a number of other things that you need to do to grow a business. And one of those critical things is really understanding your customers and understanding the market. And when I mean customers, it's really understanding your market segments, right? To who are you really creating a need for? Who's buying your stuff, right? How many of these people are there? How much are they growing? What will it take for me to access them? So this is all the stuff we talk about when we spoke about desirability element in our strategy session when we first began.
Every time I go home to Mum's, just as you come into Mamelodi, there's a old hardware store that people from Mamelodi Estrus will know very well, called Den and Pine. And there's a 4-way stop that leads you to Mamelodi Estrus as you come out of Mayor's Park. There's a guy who's been selling, he's a vendor, the guys that sell, little bit of airtime here and air freshener here, and what he's been doing that for years. I'm sure a couple of decades now, right? He's been doing that for years. And he has become quite adept at it, because he wouldn't stay there if it wasn't at some level giving him some sort of income, right? Yeah. But I remember having a quick conversation with him, and the way that he always speaks is support me, man. Support me, right? Support me. And I said to him, hey, my broer, how many people buy from you because they want to support you versus they actually need what you sell, right? Because I don't really need what you sell. Yeah. And I love Sundowns and everything, and I'll buy the sticker. I'll buy it from you because you sell those Sundown stickers, or the sticker that's got the holy herb. Yeah. or a little bit of an air freshener, or a cell phone holder, whatever the case may be that he's selling at that particular time. I'll buy it from you, not because I need it, but because I'm supporting you. Yeah. I'm concerned, Andisa, that when we enter the business fray as South Africans, we enter it on that basis. Yeah. On the basis that says, support me. Yeah. Support me, I'm a black business. Support me, but not because there is a first principle need that I'm meeting. So this bra of mine at the intersection is selling all of these wonderful, but nobody really needs those things. Yeah. And his value proposition is fundamentally support me because, I'm unemployed and I've been doing this for the longest time. And he's a nice guy. He's a pleasant guy. When you stop there, you have a bit of a conversation about how we beat pirates. Sorry. I move on. I digress. Yeah. And we have that.
It's coming soon, by the way. You eat your words again.
So we have that conversation about as Sundown supporters, and we have that conversation. But it isn't. I'm not buying what he's selling me because I need it. I buy it because I'm going to buy that thing and then I'll give it to my cousin who likes to stick all of those things on his bakkie, and it's great. But not because I have a need for his product. Yeah. And my sense is that the reason why we enter the business space as South African entrepreneurs has to do less with the meeting of a need that we can commercially manipulate and make sustainable, and therefore scale and grow. Rather, we go on the basis of this is a BEE deal, or this, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. Or you're going to be able to earn, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. If I'm hungry, I'd like to earn. Yeah. But if the idea is that we want to start businesses, it appears to me that we need to think a little differently about how and why we want to enter this realm called entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah.
And I find that we're not looking hard enough. So if I want to do business with you, as Ndiso Consulting Group, I'll come there because you're my bra. We're friends. Give me a deal.
Yeah.
But not because I'm coming, because I understand your business and I understand my business and how I can serve a particular need that you have.
Yeah.
And for me, what that does is that it opens us up to all sorts of unethical stuff now. It opens us up to all sorts of brass-cup nepotism stuff that usually happens that is associated with South African entrepreneurship. How do we? And finally, I'm going to shut up just now, because I'm really passionate about this. And then to add fuel to the fire, corporates that we want funding from, whether it is the government funding, whether it is corporate funding, will then ask us not about what need do you respond to in the commercial world. They will ask us about, do you have CIPC documents? Do you have, and again, those things are important.
Yeah.
But what they don't do is speak to the reason why you exist as a business.
Yeah.
And therefore, we as business people don't spend enough time doing what you've been talking about now, thinking about market segment. How do I respond to a specific need that I can supply a saution for sustainably and with some prospects for growth? Does that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense, Aubrey. And I want to build a line of thought. Then we'll come to the funding one. By the way, is number 5 of the 5 reasons. I've only told you now about 2.
Right.
And the third one, I think it's very important. And by the way, you'll see that if you get the first one right, as an entrepreneur, which is gaining basic, starting the business for the right reason and having basic entrepreneurial skills, the rest of the things fall back of the reasons that I'm given. Is to say, you'll find that when people, even when they've succeeded to start the business for the wrong reason, you'll find now that they get stuck in the next phase, which is not understanding markets, not understanding the value proposition, not understanding their customer and what needs they're fulfilling. And this is what you are referring to. So sometimes, like your guy, there are people who buy from you, right? And you are able to maybe survive your business for the long time. I don't know how long is that guy.
Easy, conservatively 10 years.
10 years.
He's been on that corner.
My question: has he grown his balance sheet or has he grown his revenues?
I don't think so.
Is he employing people? Is he?
I really don't think so.
So he's remained at survivalist mode, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Which is fine, by the way. There's nothing wrong.
I'm going to tell you another story about Babus Kosana in Ngomhlanga that I've told before, which is. He sells similar things, but Babus Kosan has scaled, bro. I'll tell you his story just now.
No, absolutely. And these are the stories we...
Sure.
And remember our purpose here, Aubrey. We're not saying that self-employment is bad. I mean, I'm not here to... Remember what you and I are trying to do.
Absolutely.
Are trying to grow small businesses to becoming conglomerates. Yep. Because you and I, the problem we are solving is a big unemployment problem of 7 million people, right?
Yeah.
So if it doesn't...
Somebody asked me that, Chris. What problem are you solving? Thank you. Yeah.
If the message doesn't land well with you, if you're a self-employed, there's nothing wrong with that. Sure. There's nothing wrong with putting food on the table. There are doctors, by the way, who've been doctors with the surgeries, self-employed for years and years.
Sure.
And been able
there's nothing wrong with that.
And they've managed to have a prosperous life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But for us, that's not our focus. Our focus is about, you asked me now to say, once you've gotten a contract, what's the next thing? And I said it's about scaling, it's about sustainability. Because scaling for me, that's when you start absorbing people. Sustainability, that's when you start feeding them in perpetuity, right? So the third question, reason why businesses fail, they call it poor business planning. If you manage, by the way, Abu Dr. and that guy, because they've managed to almost corner the market. But for some strange reason, they don't grow. And the reason they don't grow is poor business planning or lack thereof. How often, and I get this a lot, by the way, as a consultant, where you get an entrepreneur, none of them think about business plans. I'll tell you, the only time they think about business plans is when they seek funding.
Precisely, yeah.
I need to go rush to the NEF because I need to they've asked me for this business plan. Or I need to go to CIFA, they've asked me for this business plan. Then you sit back and say, but Hangton, so are you telling me you don't plan your business? You don't have a vision in at least your mind? Okay, vision maybe is a big word. You don't have a roadmap in your mind around even targets in your mind. That says,
but why would I, Andy, have a vision, a roadmap, when the reason for the existence of my business is fundamentally subsistence? It's really not about business. It's about making sure that I can buy food and basic things for life.
Yeah.
That I need. That I didn't start this business in order to grow. I just needed to have some sort of income.
And you're talking to something very fundamental. A lot of people think a business plan is a document.
Yeah.
No. A document called a business plan is the manifestation of what sits in your mind about your business.
Right.
So sometimes when I say, do you have a business plan, I don't mean, do you have a document?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I'm saying, do you have a plan of some sort of where you see this business? And by the way, I'm saying if you're a survivalist, it's natural that you probably don't need that. But the issue becomes when you try to scale up. The people who come, by the way, let's talk the trucking people, right? They don't have capital. And the first thing that they would want, obviously, to go and buy that truck to transport the coal back off a single contract is, let me find a business plan. So for you to be able to then build that business plan and talk to the financiers, and we'll come to the funders. Remember, you need to talk their language. We have this conversation in one of our conversations around why would banks fund you? Why would DFIs fund you? Or the type of financial institutions that are there. Remember, at the end of the day, a bank will want to see collateral. They'll only fund you, by the way, if you have another truck. You're buying a second truck, right? They'll say, okay, we'll take that as your truck that's paid up as collateral, and then they will give you money for and by the way, we'll only give you 70% because it's your contracts are risky. But think about a guy who's going to pour in equity in your thing. So, but all of them, by the way, what they are looking for is to de-risk a project because they need a return. So how do you do that at the back of one contract? If you've got a 3-year contract paying you a certain rate the question is, can you make enough money to pay back the lender and make a business for yourself? Mm-hmm. Then the next question, because a business plan is not only about the cash flows, right? It's about the environment. Do you understand the economics of trucking? Do you understand the requirements, the operational requirements of trucking, the necessary permits, the people that you need to put in, the petrol that you need, the wear and tear that you need? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? Then the next thing is, do you understand the industry? Who else is playing in there? What are the terms of your contract that you have? I mean, it's even worse if you're subcontracting, right? What are the payment terms? How do they pay you? So it's the exercise of business planning, as I'm saying, let's reduce it from not just being a document. It's something that it's like a plan. Think about a plan of, right now, I don't have a business plan of raising a family, right? But there is a plan in my mind that says, okay, at least by this year, we must be living here. And for us to live here, I need to be doing these certain jobs. But Hangton, for me to do this job, I mean, let me get another degree, right? I mean, it's not in paper, but at least it's embodied. It's things that even when you're driving to work on a day-to-day, you think about. You think about the prosperity. I'll tell you one thing of scaring, and I'm bringing it to the family because I think about my daughters, for example. I'm like, you know what? My daughters are graduating from high school. Very soon enough, they will need to go to varsity. Varsity, I know now, everyone wants to go to Cape Town. Geez, the costs are double. Right? That means I need to make that provision for the future. And this is just a life plan. Your business plan is exactly the life plan of your business. And you need to think about those things and start building in risk mitigating factors.
I want to read you some of the messages coming through on our WhatsApp line, but please, I'd love for you to give us a call on 011-883-0702. Why are you in business? And I want to say this, that this is not a finger wagging conversation. We're not pointing fingers and wagging fingers at people. We are trying to meet a particular need. And we're trying to say, if indeed you want to get into business, sustainable, scalable business, there are certain ways that you need to start thinking. Yeah? There's nothing wrong with a subsistence undertaking. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong. But remember, we're talking about this in the context of trying to make sure that we deal with issues of unemployment. For that, we need businesses that are able to employ people and maybe continue to do so because they are growing.
Yeah.
That's really the conversation that we're trying to have here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the guy who's at the street corner selling Mamelodi Sundown stickers and air fresheners and cell phone holders or whatever. Nothing wrong at all with that. But if ours is to try and create businesses that are going to employ people, it is important then for us to understand what is the responsibility if that is a serious undertaking we want to take.
Yeah.
So the one thing that's coming out very clearly, if I'm missing everything else, I want to be able to walk away from this conversation that says we have to understand that if we are going to get into business, there has to be a need that we fulfill in society, other than the need for income, for sustenance.
Yeah.
There's got to be a need that we fulfill somewhere in society other than the need for the fulfillment of my own sustenance. Nothing wrong with the fulfillment of my own sustenance. But if the goal is to build a business, it has to be more than just the need of the fulfillment of my I suppose, daily needs.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I want to tell you very quickly about Babu Skhosana.
Yeah.
So I like to go to Gwandebele, to my people, that side. And as I pass Moloto, I always come across this. He's not an old man. I've come to discover he's not much older than me. Some people might say, "Oh, sorry, buddy, you're an old man." But be that as it may, he rides a bicycle very quietly. This guy's fit. He's sinewy. He's strong. You can see this guy's strong. He rides his bicycle from Gwamhlang past Moloto to go to Silverton in Pretoria to go and buy certain provisions. And sometimes he'll take a taxi from Silverton to go to Marabastad to go and buy stuff that he sells in Gwamhlang.
Yeah.
But he also sells in Moloto. There's a burgeoning sort of community there that's new, and he sells stuff there. He sells soap. He sells washing rags. He sells polish. He sells and interestingly, he carries this stuff with a bicycle. And I met him because we were driving and, we were standing out on the side of the road having a bit of a Coke with my kids and so forth. And there he passes. I can see the guy's a little past. So I offer him a Coke. We start talking. Ujali, Skhosana.
Yeah.
Skhosana so I asked him, what do you do? He says, no, I sell this stuff. And he says, no, next time you come from Siyabuso, where I'm stationed, come past my house. Oh, but the man has built a house that'll scare you. From that process, from that stuff. Impressive stuff. He's got a spaza shop. He's got all sorts of little businesses that he supplies. But he's gotten used to his little part in his larger business.
Yeah.
It keeps him grounded. It keeps him sane. It keeps him stable. He likes to ride his bicycle. That's how he looks after his body and all of those kinds of things. But you wouldn't think it if you were just looking at this guy just from looking at him. He's got a scalable, strong business, right? I had the opportunity to go past his house. Broer, that guy's got a serious house.
And I'm sure he's employing a number of people.
He's employing all sorts of people.
And paying them every month.
He's got a butchery. He's got a little abattoir that he's running on the side there. He's got a proper business. And he just rides his bike and he's been doing this for a couple of years now, 30 years or so. He too started out like the guy in Pretoria, in Silverton. the point I'm trying to make is that he has a particular need that he is serving. He serves the people in Moloto. He serves the people in Gwamhlanga sort of area. And it's the kind of area that still needs that kind of service. And he has been quite successful. Little butchery, little spaza shop there. I think there on the other side, he's got a little bit of a shebeen going. He's running a business. So I'm saying that he too looks like the guy in Silverton in Mamelodi, yeah? But the other guy is running a burgeoning business because he's been quite clear and deliberate in understanding that, I sell meat to this community that doesn't have and the guy's got a thriving business.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got lots of calls. Do you want to take calls first?
In fact, before maybe we take calls, I want to maybe round up on this, poor business planning, right?
Yep.
And I would like to start saying there's nothing wrong with getting consultants to help you with a business plan, right? But where you need to be mindful of, you must be invested in the process. You must know that business plan in and out, because I'll tell you what that one does. It helps with what you've been talking about now, going to talk to funders. It's scary how many consultant build business plans that entrepreneurs take to funders, and they stand there when they're presenting their case and they can't even speak to it. It doesn't sound credible. Yeah. No one will give you money when you don't sound credible.
Sure.
As if you don't know your industry, you don't know your business, you don't know your economics drivers. You've not thought of your risks, you've not thought of your environment, and you want somebody else to put in money in there. Remember what they say, a business of course needs to be there, but they beg the jockey and not the business.
And the
jockey must be convincing.
Would you give you money if you weren't as convincing as you? Right, I want to take some calls, lots and lots of calls, and I do want to take these calls, but lots of messages coming through. Remember, we're talking about why you start a business. We go straight to the lines. Joan is in Joan in Four Ways. Good evening to you, Joan.
Good evening. How are you?
Very good, thanks, Joan. Go ahead, man.
I'm good, man. I would like to comment based on the issues of why I'm into business.
Sure.
I feel like I'm from Malawi, by the way.
Yeah.
But I've started business here from the scratch up until growth, and I can see that I'm growing because by the name only South Africa. I feel like most of South Africans are not taking advantage of the name blended by the name South Africa. Because I grew up in Malawi, whereby a product that is made in China, we said, it's fake. But once it's even made in South Africa, would be considered original. So I feel like South Africans, instead of focusing on tenders and making a lot of money at once, why can't we also focus on the manufacturing? Because there's opportunity. South Africa, by the name only, it's a brand outside of this country.
Sure. And you are privy to that information, John. You know this about what's going on, at least in Malawi, that if it comes from South Africa, it carries a little more credibility, yeah?
Bro, if it's something that is coming from South Africa, even if it's a car, everyone will run for it. So why can't you take advantage of using that by the name brand South Africa only?
Yeah. Joan, I'm going to let you go. Thanks very much. Yeah. Wow. Let me speak to Joshua in Kempton Park. Hi, Joshua.
Hi, sir. Yeah, just speaking to Joshua. Yeah, concerning that, why are you starting business? You are starting a business because you want to reach a certain goal. You are aiming at getting a long-term goal.
Yeah.
But you start at a short-term goal. And then you look at the budget. You look at the budget. And when you look at your budget, you look at your budget must be your guideline. It's a guideline towards your successful business. Because in that budget, you look at the previous financials, because basically before you go to the funders or the banks, they look at the financials, how strong it is, how strong is your company, firstly, and then they look at the budget. What are the figures? Are they realistic or not? If they are not realistic, the funders won't give you funding. And you look at again, what is needed by the community. If that thing is needed by the community, if that product is needed by the community, you look at it and then you work with the community and you talk to the community what is it, but you're firstly offering that at free cost, and so that they can test your product whether it is workable or not. Once it's workable, your product, and then they come to you and say, but you started at a small scale. And once you learn with your product, and then you start learning. You go to the book, you learn about your product.
Josh,
you learn about everything concerning that industry.
Sure. Josh, let me stop you there. I think we've got the fundamentals of your thinking there. Again, it's the whole issue of viability coming through. Jay is in Bryanston. Hi, Jay.
Hi. How are you doing, Aubrey?
Very good, thanks. Jay, go for it, man.
Aubrey, I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems like the business industry loves the name that starts with the letter J. You've just spoken to John, and now you're
Nicely spotted, man. Nice one, yeah.
Anyway, my guy, what I was about to say is, for me, what's very interesting is the intersection between business and politics. I'm a business owner. I'm actually one of the guys who used to contribute on your show on advertising, marketing, and influencer stuff. But one thing that I've noticed is when politicians speak about business, they berate the big names, the Oppenheimers, the Ruperts, the Linnells. Let me tell you this, a lot of young business people who are doing great business in South Africa are doing business with those names, because those are the people who are actually opening up opportunities. So do not listen to politicians when they tell you that, capitalism, white monopoly capital, and all of those, things that they use for slogans. Or when you are on the ground, the opportunities are coming from those people because their institutions are the ones who are helping, especially black disadvantaged businesses, unlike the rhetoric that is often spoken about within the political space. We would love to see a lot more people who are growing up into the system because of the Motsipes and the African rainbow minerals of this world. Yep. I've only seen one in the circles, but if you ask me how many people are working for companies that are associated with those names that are berated by politicians, you'll find that it's probably 90%. So we need to be able to wake up and start rechanging that conversation, and not just listening to the slogans, and see what is happening in the ground in terms of the people who are really funding people.
Jay in Bryanston, much appreciated. Elias is in Mamelodi. Hi, Elias.
Hi, bro.
Sure, bro. Elias, go ahead. Go ahead, bro. Elias.
Yeah. I want to give you 4 scenarios if time.
No, we don't have time. Give me 2.
Okay. Number 1 is that we business. It's not business when it's hand to mouth. We don't invest in our businesses. You will remember we had so many bootleggers in Mamelodi.
Yes.
But at the moment, only 3 or 4 of them have survived.
Yeah.
I'm talking here about Bramadrai, Bracheni, and so forth.
Sure.
But the rest.
Remember that business has gone through an evolution. It's no longer bootlegging because they've become more, what's the right word? They've legitimized, right? Yeah.
Redundant. Because, for example, Bracheni changed from bootlegging to running a bottle store, a tavern, and a nightclub.
Sure.
Jack Buddha, that. Lentwana. And then you had Bramadrai changing from bootlegging to running a butchery and distributing meat all over the township. That is expanding the business.
Sure.
And secondly is that the little profit we make from the business, we start buying floor shams at Tapov, London. We shine. We go to the stock fair. We spend about 200-300 rand.
All right, listen, bro, Elias, I've got to stop you. I'm so sorry, man. We've run out of time. Lots of people still wanting to participate. My apologies. As we close, you see, we got to get to 3, 4, and 5 of the 5. As we close, your thoughts.
By the way, the last callers just sum up the lack of good financial management, but we'll unpack it. So, I guess the reason why we tackle this, we're taking it all back. It's almost like creating a case for the content that you and I do, right? Is to say, if you were to follow our conversations, you'll find that we've given you at least a framework to talk and solve some of these issues around markets, around vision and purpose. How do you design an organization? How do you read financial statements? And one of, obviously, the articles we still need to do is one on funding and on which stage of financing that is. But I'm quite excited that at least we are foregrounding so that it does not live in vacuum, what you and I always discuss. But this was quite great and insightful, and some of the feedback I welcome.
How do people get in touch with you?
So my email address will always, again, it's called sustainability, right, Aubrey? So it will always be info@ntisoconsulting.co.za. When it changes, you know that we're not practicing what we are preaching.
Ndisa Ramabonga, the Group Chief Advisor at Ntiso Consulting.